we're okay playing with a little bit of higher salt. In fact, you're probably going to feel better. But really the number we're looking at is what 1% of
If you're a human being, you need to hydrate. But in terms of physical work output, maybe even cognitive work output, maybe we tackle hydration first, come to be known as the Galpin equation.
Yeah.
You really do deserve credit for, because I think that people, a desperate need for straightforward solutions that work for 75% of people 75% of the time. Hydration is key. Maybe you could underscore just how key it is for us.
Benefits of hydration / consequences of mishydration. So whether it's dehydration or overload. Physiology has hormetic curves, giving you a dose of something. Testosterone is a very easy example. If you're clinically deficient or low in testosterone and I give you a little bit and it brings you back into a normal range, you generally see an improvement in health and functionality. Taking you though from normal to super high doesn't always necessarily provide additional benefit. In fact, if you continue to go, it's going to provide detriment, right? So everything has this curve. It means like a small, short, fast insult is actually beneficial because then you come back bigger, faster, stronger. That's how adaptation works. Hydration is the same way. So at the end of the curve here, if you are underhydrated, we all know you could die, right? Water is the only thing that is ubiquitous across biologies in terms of every living thing has to have it. There's no other vitamin, mineral, nutrient that is required among all living things with the exception of water. Down here at the bottom, if you're dehydrated and I give you more, it's beneficial effects. However, if you're up the top already and I continue to give you more water past that, now we run into actual problems and we can get what's called hyponatremia, which is more common than people realize. Natremia being actually not referring to the water, but the sodium concentration being too low. And you've probably talked about that at length of why that's an issue. If sodium potassium balances outside a cell come off, heart stops, right? Muscle contraction ends. So you don't want to be over or under hydrated. The most context is talking about how much water to drink throughout the day and then how much water to drink during exercise. So the very easy answer is half your body weight in ounces per day is a very loose guideline for total amount of fluid consumption. So if you weigh 200 pounds, aim for 100 ounces of water. It's like a very easy number. If you hit that, you're probably, I'd say 90% of you are good 90% of the time alone. If you then go to exercise, you need to then account for that fluid loss with exercise. And in general, you want to consume 125% to 150% of the amount of weight you lost in fluid. In other words, if you worked out and you were 200 pounds naked and you went and did your workout and then you dried off and you weighed yourself again and now you're 198 pounds, you lost 2 pounds of water. That's 32 ounces. You want to drink back about 125% of that. So instead of drinking 32 ounces, I want you to drink 40, 42, 45, like something like this. Because one of the reasons why is unless you're drinking something that is isotonic, meaning the same exact concentration in your blood that you're in your fluid, you're just going to go closer to that hyponatremia. You're going to get a bunch of baroreflector responses, and you're going to actually think you have too much fluid, and you're going to urinate it out.
What if I'm not weighing myself before and after workout? Training for an hour, I should drink at least X number of ounces?
Yeah, in that particular case, 12 to 20 ounces. That's probably like pretty decent.
And they're probably doing that, right?
Yeah.
And what about electrolytes, consuming salt, potassium, and magnesium? But
that thing only works though if you're coming in at optimal hydration. And this is the problem. This is why you have to flag this starting with a good total daily amount of water. Because if you're coming in and you're like, oh, I drank 2 or 3 glasses of water a day, then you might need to drink 50 or 60 ounces post-workout because you're way behind. So that 12 ounces or so works if you're already generally very well hydrated.
And if people are drinking, 4 to 6 glasses of water a day, but they're also drinking a lot of caffeine in any form, then they're going to be excreting more water in most cases, right? Because caffeine's a diuretic.
It kind of is, but it kind of isn't either. It's not the diuretic that we used to think about it as. It is still fluid consumption. So it's only a diuretic if it causes you to excrete more fluid than it actually was being intake. So if caffeine intake is in a normal range, I don't have to worry about the diuretic effects. If someone is drinking 12 cups of coffee a day, or they're taking caffeine pills or something, now the excretion is going to outkick the coverage. So now we're going to have problems, right? Because there's no fluid consumption with the caffeine pill. So in general, things like tea consumption, I'm not super worried about those things. You can count those towards your total fluid intake if you want. So if you're like, I drink 60 ounces of water plus 20 ounces of coffee, and then, you're going to add that all up and you're going to be totally okay. You also have problems with synthetic forms of caffeine versus natural forms of caffeine. Natural forms are pretty okay.
So
You're gonna be
coffee,
just fine.
tea, etc.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Pill form is where it gets tricky.
Always. So, in general, just eat real food and things. You're gonna be just fine. The last piece to consider is your diet quality matters, because the fluid content in your food can vary wildly. So something like a bagel might be, 5 to 10% water, or something like a watermelon is 98%, 95%, something in a huge range. Even meat is very high percentage of fluid intake. Like, it's a really high. Even after you cook it, there's still a lot of fluid in there. So if you're eating a whole food, mostly whole food based diet, your endogenous hydration is actually pretty high already just from your fluid. If you're eating a very highly processed, dehydrated, oversalted diet, you're way low on hydration just in your food. So you have to factor all these things in. In fact, one of the things that happens to us constantly with folks that go from a highly processed, low quality diet to a high quality one is they're just peeing nonstop. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, well, you're actually have brought in 60 additional ounces of water in your diet relative to what you used to have. And you've gone from 10 grams of sodium there to 4 to 2, sometimes 1. Sometimes it gets very low because you're not like salt. Are you salting your food? No. Okay, well, we don't have sodium intake then. Like, we're way down. So everything that we're considering is based on that. So let's assume someone's eating a pretty well balanced diet. They're drinking 60 ounces of water and maybe some caffeine and coffee and tea, things like that. We don't exactly know the optimal amount of sodium one should intake. It is very clear high sodium concentrations are still associated with a lot of negative health outcomes, especially in combination with poor physical activity, in combination with low food quality, and other comorbidities. That's a very bad thing. You need to be very careful about those things. If everything else is okay, we're okay playing with a little bit of higher salt. In fact, you're probably going to feel better. You're going to feel generally pretty good. Very clear. If you are overweight, highly stressed, and you don't have a lot of these things ticked off, and you have known comorbidities, you really need to pay attention to salt intake. It can be very nasty. What we're generally going to look at, folks, is can we categorize you as a low sodium or high sodium sweater? If so, there's a whole list of electrolytes you can look that are going to have something like 200 to 400 milligrams per serving. And there's a whole list of these things. If you're a low sodium sweater, I'm probably going to send you after one of those. If you're a high sodium sweater, there's a lot of electrolyte supplements that are closer to 600 or 800, even a whole gram per single serving size. So you want to play with that.
When you look at the hazard ratios for salt intake, basically your probability of really bad things happen to you goes way up as you get towards, a lot of sodium intake, 10, 12 grams per day. And this is translated to teaspoons of salt, et cetera. But also very low sodium intake is a problem.
No question about it.
It's not a perfect U shape. It's kind of a J-shaped curve, or a kind of hockey stick shape, more or less. But how would I know if I'm a low sodium or a high sodium sweater?
Yeah, an easy way to do is just look at, wear a hat or wear some sort of headband or something and do your workout. Take it off. If you see a just huge white band, or if it's completely clear, then that's going to tell you. Big white band, you're probably a high salt sweater. Completely clear, very little coming out.
Better on a slightly higher sodium intake.
Most do.
If somebody is pre-hypertension or has hypertension or obese, you really do need to be careful with your sodium intake. But many people seem to find that they feel better when they increase their sodium intake, and they're still in that healthy portion of the hazard ratio curve.
Most of the athletes, I would say in general, we're going to go higher in salt. When they come, we're going to run their stuff and we're going to add salt. Almost always. Very few times have I gone, we need to cut this back. With the exception of the ones that come in that eat like 14-year-olds. Okay, you're 15 grams a day because you're eating nothing but
garbage.
So we're going to come down, you're going to feel way better. And all this bloating and everything else that's going to happen.
During exercise, let's say I'm a high salt output, then I'd want to drink maybe 40 ounces of water with or more.
Yeah, okay, I'll do this easier. Let's talk about pre and mid and post. Right, so what to drink pre. If you come in having hit these rules, you're okay. And pre-workout can be as little as like 5 or 6 ounces. Basically a couple sips of water. Fine. If you come in poorly hydrated, then you maybe need to go more like 12. But here's the deal. If you start off a session in a bad spot, you're not going to catch back up. Like you're in trouble. Let's say you come in, you follow directions. 500 milligrams salt before, 500 milligrams after. A very easy rule. Pick whatever source you want. That's a couple of sprinkles of table salt. If you want Himalayan, that's fine. You don't have to. Himalayan is actually a fairly low sodium salt, so it's not the best for this purposes. If you're a higher salt or sweater, a little bit more. If you want to go choose an electrolyte, of which there are infinite, You can look on the packet and it'll tell you, 250 milligrams per serving or 400 or 600 or whatever happens to be. But around 500 pre-500 post is a very general rule. In general, the research shows pretty clearly 2 milligrams per kilogram body weight over 15 minutes seems to put you in a pretty good spot. Most people don't think about kilograms or milliliters. So can I just run that over? And it turns out it's about your body weight divided by 30 in ounces. Like that's all you have to do.
Body weight in pounds divided by 30.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you weigh 200 pounds divided by 30, and that's the number of ounces. You're going to want to go every 15 or 20 minutes or so.
So I'm getting that amount every 15 to 20 minutes throughout the training.
Yep.
And now in the weight room, that's pretty easy to do because there are rest intervals, but people will need to do this while running or cycling. And that can cause a little bit of gastric distress if you're not used to it. Is that right? You can learn to run with some water in your belly.
100%. The gut is very trainable in a lot of directions, but in terms of fluid as well as carbohydrate, which is another thing that is going to get people. But that's, very trainable. It'll be uncomfortable initially, but you'll quickly get into it. The better solution for those folks, just come in hydrated. And you might not even need any water. You could probably perform just fine. So the ones that don't have as much of an opportunity, you really have to emphasize walking in. We have this problem with professional golfers. They have plenty of time to drink water, but they're so focused on the shot, and there's a lot of variables coming up. Once they hit their shot and they're moving on to the next one, they're thinking about, they're going over a scorecard of 185 yards away. Can I go 184 and a half yards? Can I go 186 yards? What's the slope of that? What's the wind up here? What's the wind up there? They're just thinking, and they just forget, even though they have 4.5 hours. So we have to make sure that they immediately get off the course. We go right into recovery as hard as we possibly can. They wake up the next morning, they're in a good spot. We crush recovery. And now it's like, hey, if you can remember to drink this, great. If not, we're still fine. If it's not a big a deal and you have time, like in a lifter, because I deal with that problem with fighters too. We can only drink so much in the middle of a fight. A couple sips over there, but we can't go mix and 2 milliliters. It's like, can you get a couple sips in? Yeah. Oh shit, forgot. It's not going to happen. So we have to take more emphasis before and after. So start your recovery process immediately and then come in the next day. That's your window. And then whatever you can get in during the workout, that's fine too. If you're a higher salt sweater, instead of doing 500, maybe go 750. If you have a longer bout of exercise, especially if it's hot or humid, then you might want to consider some salt in the workout as well. And 300 milligrams during the workout, totally fine. It's enough. If it is a really long workout and it's really hot and you're going to lose pounds during it, you need a specific strategy. If you're going to lose less than a pound, you don't need to worry about it. It's not going to be enough of a detriment for you to really care. So that's kind of a rough rule. Now, if you're 200 plus pounds, maybe that number moves from 1 pound to 2 pounds. But really the number we're looking at is 1% of your body weight. If you're losing more than 1% of your body weight, we need to start caring. If it's less than 1%, it's not going to really pay that much of a difference.
Okay, so for myself, because I don't get super technical, I don't wear any devices besides a wristwatch.
It's a nice watch.
Thanks. I do. They're very attached to this watch, or it's attached to me, I suppose. My body weight in pounds divided by 2. That's what I'm going to try and get across the entire day as a kind of baseline, and then my body weight in pounds divided by 30 during the workout every 15 or 20 minutes. That I'm going to try and consume that amount. And then I definitely do better when I increase the amount of salt that I'm taking in, anywhere from 500 milligrams to a gram of salt several times a day.